Now, how will Brexit impact on smaller unquoted companies?
Brexit is here at last. 47 years after the experiment began, it's come to an end. So we know it's happening. What we don't know is what it's going to look like. And that applies to all companies, including smaller companies. Unsurprisingly, one can assume that those are the most at risk of difficulties are those that have supply chains that rely on Europe, those that employ Europeans living here, and then the general risk of what is the impact of Brexit to the economy. When I look at the companies that we invest in, and a big theme in that is B2B software companies, our exposure, I guess, is more on will we be able to get software developers than perhaps on whether we'll be able to sell, because typically we sell more to America than we do to Europe. So my biggest concern is what the prospects are for continuing to bring new software developers into the UK, and then ultimately, how will the economy weather the Brexit experiment?
Right. So that's interesting, because it's more about the employees, whether you'll be able to bring them into the UK versus actually selling into Europe.
Yes, because typically the biggest market after the UK for software companies tends to be the USA, which has a common language. Europe, clearly with multiple languages, is usually comes after the US.
Right. Paul, how about you? What impact will Brexit have on UK smaller unquoted companies?
Well, as I've argued many times, the last decade has been one of incredible prosperity and flourishing for UK small companies, both quoted and unquoted. And and what's interesting is that the high levels of uncertainty we've seen around Brexit in the last 3 years hasn't derailed it. It has caused some problems, but it hasn't derailed it. So now we come to the sharp end of Brexit really this year. Clearly we're all hoping that the trade deal that gets done will be benign and will not cause too many problems for businesses in the UK. I think that the growth end of the market that we're typically investing in needs to be able to obviously wear some political knocks and ride with the ups and downs of political life as well as economic life. So we shouldn't get overly sensitive, but we'll know a lot more at the end of this year than we do now. And I think it's reasonable to expect a period of 2 to 3 years of ongoing uncertainty and perhaps some difficulties early next year as a new trading relationship gets established.
Well, I think we're pretty used to uncertainty now, actually.
We are, yeah.
And Charlie, what's your response on the impact of Brexit?
Yeah, we're a generalist investor funding growth, and typically funding growth means technology. Technology drives growth, but also people. So picking up on what Will said, more often than not, our money has been used to expand companies with people and people with technical skills, and we've been heavily dependent upon staff from Europe. Pulling in to fuel our software companies and our growth companies, and it's a concern if we're not going to be able to attract that talent in the same way. If you ask any one of our CEOs what is the biggest challenge, it is hiring people.